Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Where'd he go?
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Present. Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Reverend Christopher Jambora of the All Saints Episcopal Church, Fort Worth. Thank you, sir, for coming out. After the invocation, please remain standing for the pledges.
Let us pray. O Lord, our Governor, bless the leaders of our land, that we may be a people at peace among ourselves and a blessing to other nations of the earth. To the President and members of the Cabinet, to governors of states, mayors of cities, and to all in administrative authority, grant wisdom and grace in the exercise of their duties. To senators and representatives and those who make our laws in states, cities, and towns, give courage, wisdom, and foresight to provide for the needs of all our people and to fulfill our obligations in the community of nations. To the judges and officers of our courts, especially our Commissioner's Court and Judge Whitley, give increasing depth of wisdom and integrity, that human rights may be safeguarded and justice served. And finally, teach our people to rely on your strength and to accept their responsibilities to their fellow citizens, that they may elect trustworthy leaders and make wise decisions for the well-being of our society, that we may serve you faithfully in our generation and honor your holy name. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory, now and forever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Reverend. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have several announcements for you this morning. Three of those are under the Administrator's office. We go to that section 7A3. This concerns a contract with Norris Conference Centers in Fort Worth. We did include a contract in your red folder this morning. We've added that to the electronic workbook also. On item number 4, this concerns RFP 2009-130. As it relates to the financial audit of Tarrant County, we're going to ask that we hold that particular item for 1 week. Also on item number 10, this is a contract with Teague, Knoll, and Perkins. There is a new, actually a corrected court communication document in your folder this morning, an electronic file. It was just a transcription issue with one of the numbers, and it was a 45-cent difference, actually, so we needed to correct that. And then, court members, under Information Technology, which is 7E3, this is the location release for ServiceNow Incorporated. We're going to ask that that item be removed from the agenda. It will be coming back to you probably within a week or so. Also, just to remind the court that we have 2 briefings this morning also, and when we get to that section, we'll introduce those briefings. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of the August 4th meeting. Move approval. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. You have before you the consent agenda.
Move for approval, including or noting the changes that Mr. Manius made.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as changed. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, if we go to the administrator's section, items 1 and 2, we're going to ask that you receive and file those issues because we're not asking for any other definitive vote by the court. Let me explain a little bit about what those are. Item 1 concerns actions as relates to the Tarrant County's government's effective and rollback tax rates. If the county were to approve a tax rate that was above either the effective or rollback rates, then there is a requirement that we set an outside tax rate and that we also have some public hearings. Our current tax rate is .264, and the budget that you received yesterday was based on that particular tax rate. The effective tax rate for Tarrant County is .270557, and the rollback rate is .320926. There's no intent on staff to recommend that we go any higher than the current tax rate, which is below both the effective and the rollback rates. Therefore, there's not a need for the various public hearings. What we would like to do, though, is simply enter into the record what the effective, the rollback, the current, and the proposed tax rates are so that we have it officially documented. And with that, we're asking that the Commissioners Court receive and file this particular document.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, on item 2, this is similar to the discussion on item 1, except this involves the Tarrant County Hospital District's effective and rollback tax rates. The current tax rate for the hospital district is .227897. The rollback, or the effective tax rate is .234240, and the rollback rate is .252888. The Board of Managers has estimated that their proposed tax rate is they would like it to be .234, not to exceed that. That particular tax rate is below both the effective and the rollback rates. Therefore, it does not require the various additional public hearings. So what we're asking the Commissioners Court to do today is not to approve anything, but to simply receive and file this document, which shows the effective, the rollback, the current, and the proposed tax rates for the hospital district.
Are the proposed and the current the same?
No, they're not.
And
The proposed is a little bit higher. The proposed is .234, and the current is .227897. As I said, this is not a request that you approve any of those. It is simply to receive and file this to put it in our record.
Have they sent us something indicating this is the rate that they're looking at?
I believe that they had a budget retreat. I think a couple Saturdays ago. I went to it, and I know some of your staff went to it also. And this is the rate that they had proposed at that time.
I understand that at that retreat, they didn't actually present a budget.
No, it was a workshop, and they're still trying to develop that budget. But as I said, this is the information. They provided us the number of what their proposed tax rate would be, their staff did. And what we're simply doing is asking that you record that in the record.
Well, for the sake of the record, I will move to receive and file. But I would like the hospital district to understand that the current tax rate is probably where we would like to see them be,
Or less?
or less.
I'll second that motion and comments.
Well, and I'll third it.
Aye.
And I'll third it. And I think I got a fourth and a fifth up here, too. So. Any other discussion? I didn't catch any indication in the last couple of things that they were looking at any kind of a tax increase.
This is the first I've seen of it.
So that's
Me as well.
motion passes unanimously.
Just for the Court's information, that number was provided to us by their staff. Okay. If we now can move to item number 3, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve a contract between Tarrant County and Norris Conference Centers, Fort Worth, for hosting the Permanent Supportive Housing Workshop, which will occur September 30th of this year.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
This, Commissioner Brooks, this deals with reentry. We received a $10,000 grant to host the planning effort, And so what this is it allows for us to have this conference to bring all the service providers together.
I recall.
Your Honor, we are going to hold item number 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Snyder?
Sorry, this wasn't on consent, but we're recommending an exception to the interpreter fee schedule.
What did you just say?
I said, we're sorry this isn't on consent, but we're recommending an exception to the interpreter fee schedule for County Criminal Court Number 2. And yes, we need to revise this fee schedule.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Phillips?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioners Court is requested to approve a granite and brick color selection for the exterior of the new jail that was included in the 2006 capital improvement program. Commissioners Court, during a March 31st, 2009 work session, requested that staff, project team go back and provide additional color selections regarding the skin of the building. The architect has designed 9 selections, and Gilbane Building has had those 9 panels built at the jail site. And today we have 2 of the favorite selections here with us, and I'd like to discuss those if we can.
But you kind of oopsed it at the jail site, didn't you?
We had little oops. Basically, we have 2.
No, we're not going to have any workers' comp here. You guys are looking at cotton picking.
We have let me just keep it, I'm going to let Michael Schwartz is going to talk in detail about the granite. I'm just going to talk about the brick just a minute. This is number 6. When you go see it down here, it's the lighter brick, and the darker brick, which is the Radio Shack or the College District campus brick, is this darker brick here. Number 6 is an Acme brick. It's called Royal Orchard. It's from Elgin, Texas. And the granite is called Sunset Beige, and it's from Marble Falls, Texas. So it's an all-Texas
And this is the granite that was previously shown under form number 8
Yes.
at the site.
Yes, and Michael's going to address that here in just a second. This particular panel, number 8, is an Acme brick. Both of these are Acme bricks. This is garnet. It's the same brick we have at the Radio Shack building. It's produced in Tulsa. Also, this particular granite is produced or quarried in Willow City, Texas, which is just right outside of Marble Falls. So both the granites are Texas, and this brick is Texas, and that particular brick is from Oklahoma. However, the brick manufacturer is Acme, which is a local firm. Now, Michael Schwartz is here to discuss. He would like to address the court with his comments before you vote.
What's this number?
8.
And that one? 6?
We're going to call it 6. Yes.
6 revised.
Well, both of them were revised, aren't they?
Would you all like these guys to continue to hold it, or can they put it down?
Yeah, till we...
As long as they've got it set on that, balanced on that thing, we're all right. Just,
Okay.
I don't want them holding it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. I don't really have a lot of detail to cover. I think the issue is fairly self-explanatory here. The good news is I guess from the perspective of some of you, the gray is gone. It is out there. It was one of the ones that we thought was all right, although we did go through all the various bricks that can be manufactured within the 500-mile lead radius, and wanted to come up with some choices that were more in the warmer color ranges. And the brick 6 was the one that we are recommending as an alternative to that brick. The brick 8, I know, was suggested as one that should also be considered because it's right across the street on the Radio Shack headquarters. It is not a brick that we would recommend for this building, primarily because of how dark it is. I think that on a building of this size, with as much wall-to-window ratio as it has, this building has a lot more wall than glass, certainly Radio Shack, which is mostly glass, and a little bit of brick. And even if you compare it to the Family Law Center, has more windows in comparison to this building. So the wall material is very important. it's going to have a lot to do with how dark and how sort of large the building would appear. We think that this brick being a little bit lighter will make the building fit more comfortably into its setting. We think it relates nicely to the other county buildings, both the jail as well as the courthouse and some of the other buildings as you move further east. The one thing that you can't see with this particular brick that you can see out on the site is that it has some range to it. So every brick is not exactly the same color. And we think, again, with a building that has as much wall surface area as this one, that slightly mottled, rangy look that you get, which you see in a lot of the bricks downtown, a lot of the older bricks, that range actually makes for a richer, more interesting wall than a monolithic color that's the same color all the way across. Those are the extent of my comments. David mentioned on the granite. There was a little bit of a mix-up out on the site, and for whatever, there's no right or wrong here. We simply sort of picked some materials to have them matched up with bricks out there. We actually think that this is called an azalea granite, this lighter granite. We actually think this would be our preferred granite, I think, with either brick, and it certainly matches up on the site. That's the granite that you see under that brick out on the site. It may not look significantly different here under this light. I can't tell from where you're sitting.
Are both of those granites on this side from the same quarry, the Willow Loop?
The only difference that is actually the same piece of granite. One's just polished and one's not. Is that correct?
Is that what? Okay, yeah. We don't have the. I guess we don't have the dark. That's right, because the radiant red is not on these. Yeah. So it's the difference between it being polished and there's a third finish that's out there, which is the larger pieces have what's called a split face or a rock pitch finish, which is going to color-wise look closer to the upper samples on each of these. It's going to look a little bit lighter than those, actually.
Well, I'd like to try a motion, if I may, Judge. I move that we select panel number 6 for the following 3 reasons. Number 1, I do think that dark brick will create a much more ponderous, a heavier looking building. Number 2, I think we should distinguish our county building in color from the new Trinity River campus of Tarrant County College. I don't like selecting the same brick because it will make it look like it's more a part of the Trinity River campus than the county campus. And number 3, all of these are Texas products, and I think there should be some consideration given to that. So that's my motion and the reason for it.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yeah. I prefer this panel. And I can use some of the same arguments, but I think that to compare this building with the Radio Shack building is a non-issue. They're not that close together. They're hundreds and hundreds of feet apart. The main buildings. The architecture on your building is so superior to that building and fitting in the downtown that overwhelms worried about that building. I think that's just a non-issue. I like the richness that this provides, and that's the one I would probably continue to support.
Totally agree.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Jay.
I voted for both of them.
You voted for both of them. Number 6.
Okay.
3 to 2. I like the granite on that one. That was the piece of granite I liked from the very beginning. And I know that's not the granite that y'all like, but that's the granite that I liked, and that was my primary reason for originally thinking I was going with number 8. And so when the granite moved, so moved I. The fact that both of them
Thank you.
didn't help either.
I said, I guess we'll all.
We're all going to like it.
Just like this.
Miss Glenn, come on. Mr. Phillips, is that all you have for us today?
Move to receive and file personnel agenda.
Second.
A motion is second, receive and file personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion will pass unanimously as soon as Commissioner Fickus pushes his button. Number 2.
The second item, we're asking the court to approve the extension of a project employee in the county clerk's office. As your court communique indicates, of course, these extensions are for 1 year, so if approved, this extension would take this temporary employee through August of next year. This individual is working on a records indexing project that this individual's been working on for some time. There is a fiscal impact of approximately $24,000. It is to the Record Preservations Fund, not the general fund.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our third and final item, we're asking the court to approve the Job Evaluation Committee's recommendation. The Job Evaluation Committee met, I believe it was Friday of last week. There are 2 positions detailed in your court communique, a staff attorney for the criminal courts and the emergency management specialist. There is a fiscal impact to the general fund for the staff attorney position of approximately $7,300 for the balance of this fiscal year, and that excludes fringe benefits.
And then the emergency management person was a grant-funded
It's
position?
a grant-funded position, yes, sir.
And that means there's no fiscal impact to either the general fund or road and bridge, correct?
Correct.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer? Good morning.
Public Health is seeking your approval to submit a grant application to the Public Health Accreditation Board, known as FAB, that's a national organization, to participate in a public health accreditation beta test.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham?
Your Honor, the members of the court, we have 4 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is in regards to RFQ number 2009-114. This is for a reentry specialist for the Tarrant County Life Coach Program. Recommendation would be to award to the 3 vendors as shown in your court communique. And there are 3 contracts that are attached to this document. We're seeking approval of those contracts also, if approved.
Move approval.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 2 is a bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-126. This is our annual contract for protective HemoPoint H2 supplies and equipment. Recommendation would be to award on per enterprise basis, awarding to Standby or Laboratory. Bids that we received from Biomedical and More Medical did not include the addendum documents. We're asking for rejection of those 2 bids.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3 is an item in regards to RFP number 2006-167. This is a request for proposal for offender-paid electronic monitoring services for CSCD that was awarded to Sentinel Offender Services. CSCD is actually asking for an extension through November 30th, 2009 for this particular RFP.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our last item is a housekeeping item in regards to Court Order 106096, which was approved. This bid was approved. The rejection was approved last week. We're asking that this previous court order be rescinded, that you again approve the rejection, and we be allowed to rebid with revised specifications.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
like you're coming in this direction. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning, court members and judge. The sheriff's office this morning is asking your consent to renew a contract that's currently in existence that we have for housing sex offenders' civil commitments. We don't ever have very many of them. We have about 3 right now, and haven't had any problems in the time that we've had the contract in place.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, a question. Are these Tarrant County cases?
Actually, I believe these commitments all come out of Montgomery County, and in some cases they would not be. This is a contract with the folks in the communique. It's really not our. It's the Council on Sex Offender Treatment, and I would not say that they would necessarily all be Tarrant County residents or from Tarrant County where their cases were. Some have been.
What's the highest number you've ever had at any one time?
About 3, 4.
And you've never had any problem?
We had one individual to reoffend and violate the terms and is now awaiting felony trial, new charges. But that was a nonviolent breach and just a violation of his terms.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Move approval of, Ray, are we okay on these? Move approval of items 7K, 1A through D.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Any appointments?
Oh, I'm sorry. On behalf of the Human Services Advisory Committee, I'd like to recommend the following appointments for terms beginning March 2008 and ending February 2010. Faye Beaulieu, June Davis, Debbie Kratke, Randy Clinton, Deborah A. Hill, and Kelly A. Rod.
Human Services.
For terms beginning March 9th and beginning March 2009 and ending February 2011, Michelle Bearfield, Pat Frosch, Marilyn Napier, Bruce Frankel, Abby Gamboa, William Ferrigo, and Rebecca Redmond.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Motion passes unanimously. Any other appointments? You have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to include the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manias.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 2 items we'd like to bring to the court this morning. These briefing items last about 15 minutes apiece. The first one is the Trinity River Vision Authority update. Mr. Granger is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
Commissioners, how are you doing?
Great.
I wanted to give you a brief presentation on an update on the project update. As far as where we are right now, as y'all know, we have started construction. For those who have looked at north of the Fort Worth Seaport's impound lot, that dirt being moved today is based on the project. I want to go ahead and take you through the same update that's provided to the other government agencies in the area. This is a long presentation. Don't worry, you're not going to listen to all that. We do have other members of our project team here. We do have our CFO, Cindy Sweeney, project manager, Woody Frossard, and also our planning development manager, Shannon Kay. So if there's any details on any of this, they'd be happy to stick around or answer any calls in the future. Taking you through this, I wanted to go ahead and take you through where we are right now. As far as the project, you probably have read in the paper and seen where we are. We have now added Gateway Park. I want to show you the cost associated with that. In addition to that, I wanted to show you what we have for our expected revenue projections, our plan to go ahead and pay for the project. I want to show you also how that plan is applied and very clearly look at the cash flow. Next thing, I'll go ahead and take you through some items that are being discussed in the community, but save that because I know really what you're looking right now is how we're actually financing the project. Taking you through it, as far as the project progression, where we are right now, let me back up. As you know, back in 2005, the TIF plan that y'all participated in, we had an original project cost of $435 million. Looking at the TIF plan as always expected, that was a price in the 2005 base year. It was expected that the TIF would also provide inflation as it went through that. But using that as a number we're all familiar with, I'm going to explain what happened next. As you know, we had an opportunity to go ahead and back up, and I say that because we actually had core approval on our original project. We backed up and looked at a smart way to incorporate Gateway Park. Gateway Park was a request of the community for about 15, 20 years. In fact, the community put a plan together, a wish list of something that could be of significant an asset for the east and southeast side of Fort Worth. So we backed up and went ahead and looked at that. That was the full focus of the Corps' inquiry. When that new number was produced, that was the number produced by the Corps. The Corps went ahead and asked, what is the cost of adding Gateway Park? The other thing they asked to go ahead and include one more thing in that local study. They recognize that the dam in our projects had to be moved upstream a little bit. And the reason why is it tied into an old landfill site. Poor geotech, so they knew you have to move the dam. That was the full focus of that study done by the Corps. What was the cost of adding that? At the time, we're already experiencing some increases in, for instance, property values. When we first started this project, most of the property in this project is floodplain property, and it's industrial. From the time we started the project in 2005 just to 2008, industrial property is becoming more valuable because based on local drilling desires, high-impact permit issues, suddenly industrial property became a very, very attractive asset to be able to be drilling. Several factors like that started contributing to our property cost. We saw this happening, but that was not the focus of the Corps. The Corps just looked at adding Gateway Park. Once again, as the Corps always does, they always put a baseline. If you construct the entire project in that year, based on what they looked at, they give us a price tag. That was a price tag there of $596 million. Saying that, we were already learning items. Judge, I know as you sit on the TRVA, we started learning a lot of stuff about utilities. We were seeing rise in property values. A good example of utilities. Originally, even the college and Trinity Bluffs with Tom Struves, they were looking at taking advantage of certain infrastructure that was in place. This is some of our oldest infrastructure in our entire city-county area. Some of the stuff they plan to utilize, for instance, in Trinity Bluffs, just crumbled. In fact, when they're actually looking at what system to apply, when they're digging through the area to figure out what was available or not available, they found the old wood sewer pipes up there. And so a lot of things that we hope to use or take advantage of was not available. Understanding that, we made sure to update our entire project so we can look at this just as you do your own household. Never let a contract unless you have the money in the bank. It's very much about cash flow. Looking at this, we went ahead and tried to put together what we expected, not just in today's dollars, but in the dollars of putting the final brick in. In addition to that, recognizing that inflation is a very, very real factor, just like any other project cost, put that down as a real item. CFO wants to make sure that we have that ability. The other thing was contingencies. We made sure to include both inflation and contingencies. We do not have a new project schedule. The new project schedule, as you'll see in just a second, has us completing this project in 2021. The original project schedule was about a 22-page concept schedule. Now it's over 10,000 work activities. Monster schedule, fantastic participation by the county, by the city, by the water district, the Corps, TxDOT. Everyone's participating in a really good plan together. Understanding that, we know exactly when certain items are going to occur. Instead of having one project, we now have 32 projects that make up the master plan. Because of that, we also know when we expect certain pieces to happen. Because we have a good schedule, that allows us to apply inflation to the year we expected that particular item to be done. In addition to that, because we have a good idea regarding what is going on right now, we have over 52 local firms that are helping us right now that we produce good data from to give you better numbers. Saying that also gave us ideas on what things we have, what we really expect very low contingency on. We have a good idea on what property is going to cost in the next 2 to 3 years. As y'all know very well, I mean, y'all are based on property taxes, your income. We looked at what we expect in the next few years. Do we expect any rises? No, we don't. Do we have a good idea what we're paying per foot right now? Yes, we do. Because of that, low contingencies apply to that particular project component. We have some in the very back part of the project, the dam. With that one, that's a lot further down the road. We're going to learn a lot more. Because of that, we applied not just an inflation factor, but also a high contingency factor to it. Saying that, here's a new project cost in $2,021. $2,021, as you can see, we also have inflation at the very top we expect to apply. And the in dollars we're looking at of what was part of the original was in the federal project the Corps is participating in, a price of $880 million in 2021. One thing we've also learned based on a higher level of design, things like talking about sprinkler heads, trees, vegetation boxes. At the time that we started the project in 2005, we were not to that level of detail. Now that's the kind of detail that Woody Frosar talks about every day with the Corps. So we do have a very good idea what the Corps is going to participate in and not participate in. Saying that, our original project share was about a 50-50 cost share. Now based on what we learned out there, what they're going to be responsible for, what we're going to be responsible for, we do expect their participation to increase to about 55%. That actually makes us focus on the one number, 392. Briefly go through this. Oh, good. Revenue and economic benefits update.
Go back just 1 second.
Yes, Judge.
If that thing will go by.
You bet.
And I think that's an important thing. We are hearing a lot about the 880. We are hearing a lot about, you're going to also hear about a 909. The important thing to remember on this is that it's about a 45-55 split, where we're putting in about 45%. The federal government is matching every dollar that we're putting in with at least $1 and a little bit more than that from that standpoint. So that's something that I think we need to try to remain focused on as we're going through this deal.
You bet, Judge. Going through here, as far as the updates and benefits, when we go through the project, one thing is very, very true. Everywhere around the country right now, general funds are tight. We went ahead and knew that we were going to update our whole plan because Gateway Park was a real desire, and thank you very much for agreeing to participate in the appropriate portion. I know y'all don't do recreation, but you do concrete. And so I appreciate y'all looking at that particular element. We knew that we had to put a plan together to figure out how the partners can deliver this. In saying that, right now, an upfront property taxes for our project, even the $435 million project, $11 million from the county, 26.6 from the city. That is the only upfront property taxes. The rest of it was TIF and Barnett Shell. Understand we had to go ahead and investigate other items to address gap or contingencies in the future. We looked at a number of different items, understanding where everybody is right now and doing the best to go ahead and keep all jobs, do not make any additional burden, do not compete with any other desires in the community. We did not look at general fund options. We understood exactly where everybody is. We also avoided any sort of item that would create an ad valorem. No one's in support of that, neither is the project team. What really became the driving force was the tax increment financing district. As you all know, this money would not exist but for this project. And so understanding that, we went and examined that as the first place to go to. So it wouldn't be any take away from any income here on the table today. This money is only in the future and only that's generated because of the situation. Taking you through here, and I caution you looking at these numbers are rosy. When you look at, we went ahead and examined what was the largest TIF in the area. I believe 40 years is the longest. Not trying to be presumptuous, saying that's what the court want to participate in. We use that as the study focus. A lot of these numbers you're seeing here were done by Gideon Toll and based on older standard. We started this in revenue update back when we had a Gateway Park. And so at that time, revenue was very, very different. We're looking at a different economy. Things have changed dramatically. Because of that, these numbers have already been flattened out. But even as recently as the past 2 months, do expect these numbers, even these you see before here, to flatten out quite a bit. I'd be surprised, as discussed, the judge is saying TRVA could flatten out even $300 million. We want to at least examine what its potential is. Understanding some of the other values, if you were to use these numbers as a study guide. Originally, projections here, you can see the school district, because they do not participate in the TIF by state requirement, they're going to make up to $890 million. In addition to that was the 20% part. This is an 80-20 split. Right now, even as the project develops, it's making money that would not occur but for this, and it goes right back into your general funds. And the original projections is, older market conditions is expected to have over $200 million in contribution to your general fund during the time of this project. Last thing was, as y'all know, even in the original study, just for the near north side piece, even though stimulus money is not paying for this project, it's very much a stimulus program. We just did expect, on average, over 600 construction jobs per year, and once this project is completed and filled in, to go ahead and generate about $1.6 billion in business activity per year. But looking back at the revenue and how we could apply that, Here's the cash flow. As y'all know, looking at it, the TIF does provide good opportunity in the future. The problem with a federal project is all of your expenses on the front end. The judge is exactly correct. We're expecting about a 55-45 split right now, and I caution you, that's not 45 cents on every dollar. Just on the project components that they pay for versus we pay for, that's where it's falling out right now. But on what we pay for, all of those costs on the front end, we have to buy the property, we have to demo the property, we have to relocate those persons. In addition to that, we have to move the utilities, do the environmental cleanup. Then we turn over a fresh, clean piece of dirt for the feds, U.S. Army Corps, or the state, TxDOT, to do their work. So all of our costs on the project on the front end, locally, the income is on the back end. So it created an interesting issue here. I say that because if you look at the original TIF plan, this was expected. It was expected to go ahead and either issue bonds or debt. And so we're looking at it, not debt that would be something that would be a burden on the taxpayer, but something to go ahead and finance the TIF. If you look on the far left, that was the original cost share. I really focus on the cash contribution of the partners, $26.11, $64 million from the Water District, that's Barnett Shell. And the last part is original TIF, if you built the project all in that year. It was expected to go ahead and have inflation through it, so we looked at now applying inflation. The next one. Now modifying the plan to include Gateway Park, we looked at what was available under the Roses condition. We expected up to $288 million on a 24-year TIF. Almost close to getting it, but those projections are not true. Right now, even if you read this week in the business press, as the economy is turning right now, which all indicators show, the last thing they expect to actually turn is real estate. It'll be the last one to probably recover. And so I do expect right now to even flatten out real estate for the next 3 to 5 years. But that makes us look at the next one. Okay, so what is the potential for the entire term? Applying that. Here's the situation. Our income's made on the back end, our costs are on the front end. Looking at the schedule provided right now with all the partners participating, you'll see here that this is what the cash flow showed. Really, our local part, if you look at the bottom line shows what it required in local dollars to keep up with it, and you can see we really got upside down pretty fast because the TIF is producing very little. Our costs are on the front end. I stopped at 2016 because by 2017, our costs, we can meet our obligation. At that point, the TIF also starts to go in and really step up. So that shortage is addressed very, very quickly after that point. So that's really the focal point looking at. 2016 up to $226 million upside down. Here's where it created a situation. We went ahead and looked at the TIF plan. It was expected to go ahead and look at how to finance the TIF, provide the upfront need, but went ahead and looked at different ways we could do it in a smarter way, a cheaper way. Looking at that, we could have looked at the TIF, but the problem with using a TIF is you can only issue TIF bonds basically in next year's income. Because, I mean, that's, selling those on the market is a tricky thing. If you looked at what the TIF makes in the first few years, it doesn't even make them enough to go ahead and address the cash flow issue. So it says, is there a smarter way to do this? Looked at the Water District. The Water District right now, you all probably know, being partners in many TIFs, the Water District only has a 2-cent tax rate. So we looked at, their taxes. They looked at what they contribute to the TIF. We also looked at what they continue to do what they did in the original plan. In the original plan, they provided very little to the TIF. The majority of their money was paid through Barnett Shell revenue because to be an equitable partner, that's what they had to do to pay in. They put in cash. So we took the same idea. We said, you know what? Instead of every partner just going to 80% or extending to a longer period, what does the Water District do to stay equitable? It's more cash. Now, if we looked at what would be the cash equivalent of being equitable, it's a smarter way. This is where it created a neat idea. What if the Water District to finance this a different way? They are not a bank. They are not going to be able to finance projects for the public. They can only finance flood control projects. The most standard way, the less creative way, just provide cash. We looked at a smarter way that provided more flexibility. Looking at the top line, if you look at the top set of numbers there, that was the original 435 project. And it showed really, I'm trying to focus on the very last column on the far right in the box. It showed the Water District was a partner at about 17%. If you look at the two columns that make up that, you had what they provide from the TIF and what they provide in cash. And you can see the Water District's TIF commitment on the far left, top line, was only $4 million. Very small compared to what you're contributing. That's why they stepped up in cash. That made them an equitable partner. Looking down, lower to the next lines, I'm really going to focus you down probably I'll focus on the middle section there. If all the partners went up to a longer TIF, and that's the only thing they did, you can see the Water District suddenly becomes a really not equitable partner. So what would be the way to address it? More cash. Look at the last line, then I'll take you through how it applies and show how we're funding it. The last line, if they went ahead and provided a cash equivalent to go ahead and make them and return them back to an equitable partner, they've got $123 million. They could have actually looked at providing that in cash to stay an equitable partner, and if you'll look at that, the very, very last line, there's a little note there that shows you the value of the interest of providing principal. If they provide the principal necessary to cash flow us, the amount of the interest that they're going to waive on that would be about $123 million. We looked at that $123 million, and they could have just paid cash, but as y'all know, the cash needs about $226. So we figured out, would it be smarter for them to provide $123 million in cash or provide the interest and waive that? Looking at it, if they provided the equivalent of 123, you see they go back to being an equitable share, but if they went ahead and provide principal and waive the interest, this is how the project cash flows. Here it is. Looking at the water district capacity each year, understand they have to still maintain 2 years operation. They address each year their ability to do so. They have looked at the projection, do feel they can do this, but instead of actually providing cash, provide the principal, waive the interest. It comes out to be the same deal, but addresses all the cash flow. At that point, we're still going full speed, and have met the obligation what I believe the court asked us to do is, please do not do anything that's going to raise our general fund commitment. Do not do anything that's going to raise additional property taxes or ask for property tax money from you. So here's a plan that we're laying before each of the partners right now on how to continue going full steam with the project. I know y'all may not think this slide is sexy. Those zeros on the bottom to me are very sexy. That means we've met our need. And without coming back to you to ask for additional front-end money on property taxes. Taking you through that, I promise to give you a real quick presentation. I'll go and hit the last part. These are something that I say communities talked about different ideas. I'm not going to take you through some of these items, but just let you know that these are some of the things being discussed right now. Bypass channel betterments, and Judge, you mentioned exactly. One thing that came up when we truly defined exactly what the Corps will participate or not participate in, I both blame and give credit to Woody Frossard. The community fully expected trees in our floodplain. As y'all know, all over the country right now, the Corps is chopping down trees everywhere. In Dallas, the recent report talked about 2,800 trees have to come down. Woody Frossard successfully negotiated, got in writing. They are now going to allow us to put trees in our new channel. The channel is being designed to accommodate them. The reason why, Woody was able to prove with a full technical team it does not compromise levee integrity. And additionally, based on the flood model that some of y'all saw in Vancouver, we also proved that the trees have no impact on the water flow whatsoever in this area. Be careful what you ask for, though. Now that has no impact, there's no federal interest. Because there's no federal interest, they will not pay for it, but we can actually do it. And so one thing that was expected to be part of the original project. Now because of that reason, they said they cannot participate, and it can still be part of the project, but it's something that would be 100% local pickup. Looking at that, that's about a $29 million commitment in the year that it would be completed. That's adding inflation back into it. And so right now, the 909 you talked about earlier, that's very much what people have said, firmly believe is the original project.
And I think the important thing, again, is that the 880 is the bypass channel. It's the floodplain part of this project. If we did not put the $29 million in there, then in effect, look at that picture, take out all the trees, take out all of the what I would call nice brickwork that you see down by the river, probably take out the stairs up to the next level up, and that's what you would get for 880. The 29 adds the trees on both sides, it adds the brickwork, it adds the stair steps up to the upper level, the landscaping and the trees up there, back to the building side, to those buildings that's set back approximately what's the setback on the...
About 25 to 30 feet.
25 to 30 feet back from the edge of that wall. So the $29 million, which they're referring to as betterments, I believe that most of the folks on the board at this time believe that this is what people expected to get, and if we don't put that in there, they're going to feel like, we didn't do what we said we were going to do. Plus, I think it's going to make it ugly.
Yes, if you leave the court to their own, it will be a very slick, efficient drainage ditch, which you'll not see in there. You'll not see the trees, the brick, or the people. Those would all be gone. And so that was to meet the project's original desire. We put it out there. That's just something we negotiate. That's something that's been learned over the past 4 years of engineering.
You'd have to rappel down the side there to get to the bottom.
Approximately how many lineal feet of that type of, I call it a hard edge, will you have?
About 1.33 miles.
Where is this?
Yes, sir. If you're, without showing, oh, you know, I can't show you a picture if you don't mind. I'll flip forward.
Right there.
Yeah, that'll work. If you look on the far left side of the drawing here, you'll see a long linear bypass channel. That runs right along the Fourth and Western Railroad.
So basically, in effect, all of the money that we've talked about thus far runs from here to here, and it's along this line.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, and here's this is the area that we're talking about where it would be the brickwork and the landscaping as such from that standpoint. But this is the bypass channel, and it's what the Corps would participate in.
Is that only on one side of that channel, or is it on both?
What that amount applies for is for also paying for the trees on the other side. We've negotiated and have the trees approved on the other side also, so it pays for the quality of life components on both sides.
No brickwork, on the other side of the bypass channel, there's no brickwork type thing. It goes back, as you see over there, maybe a trail.
It's a soft side.
Is there a trail?
Yes, there's a soft side with the citizens asked for to continue our equestrian connection from the stockyards to the cultural district. So on the west side, it's still going to be a soft type levee system you see today, but with more trees than presently allowed, and continuous connection from the stockyards cultural district.
Can I get my kayak and get in there?
Yes, sir. In fact, what you see that little place on the bottom there, the stairs going into
J.D.
it.
and I are going to go kayak.
We have several launches for you. We'll be happy to name one after you.
The bottom line, we get a much larger project for the same amount of $11 million upfront cost to the county.
Yes, sir. There's some additional items.
Plus that adds the gateway piece.
It adds the neighborhood services pieces, Gateway Park being a part of that, and it raises the leverage from 50-50 to 45 on our part, ours being the local taxpayers, and 55% to the federal government. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Which are also our taxes.
Absolutely. But diluted considerably.
Yes, sir. And once again, the money that pays for that, you have your upfront property tax of 11 from the county, 26 from the city. They've already held 2 bond elections. So really the upfront commitment's met. The rest of all the income's all made from Barnett Shell and revenue made because of the project. And so we try to continue taking that idea, Commissioner Johnson, to make sure that we're not making additional ask or putting this project in any sort of way to compete with anything else again. Last thing, not to waste your time with, there's some other items that have been discussed. There's some remaining recreation features in Gateway Park. There's also some issues about canals and environmental interior. There's some ideas about mass transit in the future. All those items are still being studied. We'll continue to look over the next few months. But really, that's it. The last part is we did look at a higher inflation factor for the project. Right now, we're experiencing about a -1%. We were recommended to keep it at 3.5%. Historical data shows for the past 50 years for construction, you stay at that factor, you're very safe. So we're recommending do not add additional money for additional inflation factor. And also, we have the ability to do some fantastic bridges. The original ones, the channel got wider. When the channel got wider, the original planned bridges got bigger. When they got bigger, they got more expensive, and they got tricky at the size they got to. So frankly, it became a lot more expensive than originally budgeted. We've looked at it, and we have the ability to do some really great bridges that meet the citizens' intent. Here's a fantastic one in Addison. There's also new and proposed along the Clear Fork to go into a new development over there. These are all complete within budget. So we're going to take the citizens' desires, go ahead and design bridges that meet those desires, take them back to them to go ahead and get approval to build bridges that are in our budget. From that, here's the last part, kind of a summary where we are. We're still looking at the input to figure out the smartest way forward, and here are the implementation steps. We are working very close to the City of Fort Worth's Economic Development Department, and we are hoping to go ahead and come back to the TRVA the first of next month and get input from all the representatives there. We represent each government agency to figure out what we're going to possibly be involved in. For instance, the bypass channel betterments, Judge. Once that's included, take that to the TIF to recommend a certain duration, what's be included, and move forward. Once we do that, we'll update all participation agreements. The water district will go ahead and complete their financing, and from there we just go full speed.
I would like to make a few comments, Your Honor, if I might, since I am president of that board. First of all, court members understand that one of the things that we did and I compliment J.D. and his staff and the board itself, the one thing that we did is that we have not deviated from the original amount of general fund tax dollars that we said we were going to commit to this project. That was 4 years ago. And that commitment is held true, and we do not anticipate that changing at all. While we may move from a 24 to a larger length TIF, what's really going to drive that is the project itself and what's included in the scope of the project, not the dollars that are available. And if we get to a point where that we've completed the project and we're still within the time of the TIF, well, then the TIF will be dissolved. It just gives us some flexibility to move forward on that. I think it speaks wonders of what has happened is that I've been here 21 years. There's been some court members that have been here more than 21 years, and as we look out to the north side, except for the ballpark, that area has never changed. It is literally a dead zone. And what we are able to do with an investment that we pledged 4 years ago, and through some creative efforts and some assistance of the Water District, we are going to be able to change that into a very strong economic engine and for the first time really provide the river to the citizens again, rather than just a river that has berms on it and that no one can get to. It's a great win-win situation. We'll get to be able to fund issues that are in the gateway area that in great probability would have been delayed, if not even recognized. So we'll be able to bring that on for our citizens. And when you look at it and where we're going, that this is a great value that the county's been participating in.
Any other questions or comments at this time from anyone? I appreciate very much the presentation. I know the staff and you have worked very hard on this. I appreciate all the effort that's gone into this. I truly think that the work that Friesen Nichols did, along with all the work that y'all put into it, has helped us get to a point to where we have a much better handle on where we are and a tool that we can use to hopefully be able to value engineer as we go forward over the next many years of this particular project. I think that the TIF board is going to be, a lot of this work is going to be taken to the TIF board, and we'll be looking at their recommendations and in the coming months, and there may be other questions that will come up, but I thank you again for making the presentation and coming out today.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. If you all like even greater detail to figure out this next few months, like I said, Sandy Sweeney, Woody Prosser, and Shannon Kay really figured this out. So thank you very much. We'll be happy at your convenience to meet with you.
Thank you all again very much.
I really appreciate it.
Sandy.
Thank you.
Members of court, we can now go to item B. This concerns a briefing with MHMR of Tarrant County and a plan for MHMR to actually occupy some space within the Plaza building. And Mr. Thompson is here to address the court at this time.
Morning, Judge.
Morning.
Commissioners. Morning. This briefing pertains to a plan for mental health, mental retardation of Tarrant County to occupy space at the Tarrant County Plaza building for their data center and for their operations staff. MHMR has exceeded their data center floor space requirements at their current facility and are very much interested in moving over and relocating at this particular facility. We've been working very closely with MHMR to assess feasibility of how this plan might work. And after looking at it very closely with facilities as well as IT, we've determined that there's benefits for both MHMR and Tarrant County. And in particular, I'd like to hit on some of the details. MHMR would pay for the planning, design, construction, and the furniture and related items. MHMR proposes utilization of existing plaza building resources, that being power supply, the air conditioning, and the backup generator. but remaining within thresholds agreed upon by Tarrant County moving forward. What this consists of is a move that would include renovation of approximately 5,500 square feet in the second and third floors of that building. And in particular, facilities management and their department would actually oversee the project along with a project manager from MHMR, and the terms of occupancy are still under review at this time. So the benefits. They relate to collaboration with MHMR in the area of health information exchange for data sharing initiatives. This is to improve accessibility of electronic health records and laboratory information systems. Additionally, we want to collaborate in the behavioral health initiatives as well. From an IT perspective, with them on the same floor, we would partner on staff training and education, and also partner on application development opportunities for cost-sharing purposes when appropriate. So the preliminaries are that the target completion date is April 15th, 2010, and that's the summary of this particular presentation. However, Dr. Jim McDermott, the CEO of MHMR, wants to say a few words, so I'll turn the podium over to him.
Dr. McDermott?
Good morning.
Morning.
I don't really have a lot to add. We are exceeding the space needs that we have for our IT department. We're going to have to relocate. Fourth floor of our building is sagging from the weight of the IT department right now, and so we thought, well, it kind of makes sense to go talk to the county. They've got a facility over there that they're not completely utilizing, so there may be some space available. We work, as you know, we work very closely. First of all, you all appoint my board, so there's that relationship, and it's an important relationship. But we work with the county in so many ways right now. We're in the jail. We work with both the probate and juvenile and criminal courts, probation, both probation departments, and public health, and a real close partnership with John Peter Smith on a variety of different things. So it's just sort of a natural win-win. So we started looking at it, and it looks like it's going to be possible if we get your approval. And this is not an approval item, but we're just wanting to make sure you know we're in this negotiations and discussions. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that you've got.
I think it's an excellent idea. We do have the space. We do have a need for all of our data centers to be able to collaborate and talk with each other. As we get into electronic medical records, it will be critical that we have a seamless system so that we can share records across the entire healthcare continuum of Tarrant County. That's something that we started looking at over a year ago when we brought the MHMR data IT people, the JPS IT folk, the public health IT folk, and the Tarrant County IT folk together to start talking about ways to share data across departmental lines. I think this is an excellent fit, and I applaud you for thinking about it.
Well, actually, at the Resource Connection, that project is well underway that you just spoke of. We're either have or are very close to implementing it. Any other questions?
Jim, in your existing building, you're going to be moving out of that particular area where you're doing this and moving 10?
Yes, we'll probably move about 8 people over here and all of our equipment.
What are you going to do with this space you move out of?
We'll lease it out or move other programs into it. I mean, it's we've got a lot of need for space, and that's we own that building, so the cost to us is fairly inexpensive. So we'll move one of our programs in there more than likely.
So you're just going to backfill it with some other?
Right.
Okay.
There's
space is it?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
About how much space will that be?
I think it's 5,500 square feet, is that right, Jason?
No, the space you're leaving now.
Oh, gosh, it's probably about 3,000, it's all over the place. We've got the data center one place and staff others, it's not a good situation.
Okay.
Commissioner Fix and members of the court, there's something additional to this, is that the training opportunities where we have both staffs, that we can have them jointly take advantage of training elements that we bring into the system itself or into the building. It's just a smart thing to do, and it'll be beneficial and cost effective for both the county and MHMR.
Do we have, is public health, are your IT folks located in your building, or are they, what's the status of that right now? Has there been any consideration, or should we in the future be looking at maybe also trying to centralize our public health IT folks into that building?
IT staff is reporting to IT, and the servers are either near or being
Right, they are moving over to Placerville, the server equipment.
You need to come up here and talk.
They do have some staff at Public Health to do some of the application development and implement some applications, but a lot of the work and most of all the hardware is
Data storage,
residing.
most of that's what I hear you saying is going to be at the Plaza building.
Right.
And the IT people that are down at Public Health, they're supervised by IT.
Right.
And so we're moving the hardware up to the Plaza building.
So yeah, and the ultimate goal, obviously, is we would like to get all of the outlining agencies hopefully back into one location so that we...
As far as the data, holding where the data is actually stored.
Exactly, right.
And then what kind of, and then from that standpoint, as we bring that all back in, didn't we set up some sort of a off-site storage or off-site duplication so that, just from an emergency standpoint?
Right, that's still one of the programs that operations is working on as far as putting a backup, a business continuity plan together, and that is still underway. And in fact, that's one of the benefits that I see even in moving MHMR over, is that they could also use some of that space where they currently have to have some backup equipment just in case there's a flood or a fire in this particular building. So that is another option. But yeah, there's a contingency plan that's being worked on for a backup for any kind of crisis and disasters. And that's still underway right now. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, JT.
Thank you.
I think it's important for us to remember that we've been briefed on how long the space would last Tarrant County in that building, and that we need not to rush too quickly in co-locating, because it will reduce the length of time the building would last for the county. So I think that that's a very real possibility that we all also need to keep in our mind.
Anything else, Mr. Manning?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
The Commissioners' Court will now recess the open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under Sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Law. Having returned from closed session and there being no action to take this time, we're adjourned.